Well, good afternoon and welcome to our series in the Center Conversation. And I'm so delighted to see all of you folks here on this snowy day. For those of you who haven't been here before, we've been in existence for 15 years. I'm J.C. Argetzinger, president of the International Motor Racing Research Center. And we collect and archive material on all forms of racing. Many people think that, well, you're in Watkins Glen, you just do the history of the Watkins Glen races. Nonsense. We do races from Laguna Seca to Le Mans, Indianapolis, to the ovals, the dirt tracks. We collect all of that information, and we have many visitors during the year who actually come in and archive and research and write books. We've had several books that people have used our archives, and we're delighted today to be talking about the Holland Speedway. And we have some fine speakers. Bill Green, our historian, is going to introduce them, but Tim Bennett, Larry Ott, and George Sikora will be speaking, and I know that you're all going to be in for a treat. Now, the center really relies on people like you. In addition to archiving the material and making it available for free for people who want to come in, we have films, we have photos of all kinds of racing. We've got 75 years of national speed sport pictures. I think we've got about 12,000 National Speed Sport photos and all of their archives. We function with the help of our friends, our sponsors and supporters. Many people contribute $25 or $250 to our annual sponsorship team, which has just been kicked off this year, again this year. And it's basically that sponsorship money that people give to us as friends, and we have a raffle card. Last year we had a wonderful 308 Ferrari, which sold out very quickly. We've had Cobras, we've had Hot Mustangs. I don't know what we're going to have this year. But for you first-time people, I hope you sign our form, our sign-in sign, and we will keep you apprised. If we have your email, we have a monthly email service that we send out news events that are coming up. So please sign that and consider supporting us. Now, Bill Green, who I'm about to introduce, really is a renowned historian. He's won many awards as a historian. He was the Glen Region's SCCA historian, WGI historian, and he has been the center's historian since it was founded. And Bill is here. Bill attended the first race at Watkins Glen, many races across the country. He has a wide range of interest in all kinds of tracks, oval, dirt, Indy, and as well as road courses. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Bill Green. My friend Bill, come on up.
Thank you very much, JC. Our first speaker will be Larry Ott, a very good friend of mine. I met him at the races up at the track at WGI, and we have a lot of fun kidding each other. But anyways, Larry graduated from Frontier High School in Hamburg, New York in 1978. Graduated with a bachelor's degree in science for media communications at Meadville College in Buffalo in 1982. Because he has become a motorsports columnist for the Buffalo News in 1985. Ott has covered motorsports in Western New York, at Holland International Speedway. He's been here at Watkins Glen and other circuits, and also have done television and various other things in television network along with Time Warner. He and I always check to make sure in Buffalo the Skyway is open. And without further ado, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bill, and it is an honor to be here today at the Research Center. And yes, I checked today, the Skyway is still open. It's actually not snowing in Buffalo today. Anyway, first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here today on behalf of myself and my partners here today, which you'll hear from later, Tim Bennett and George Sikora III. We're very grateful and honored that you would come out and listen to us talk for this afternoon. We appreciate it very much. I also want to say it's an honor for me personally to be invited by the International Motor Racing Research Center here at Watkins Glen. Just real quick, for several years as I've been covering the racing at Watkins Glen, Bill Green was always inviting me to come up to the Research Center. For years, for whatever reason, I always found something else to do. But in 2011, I finally decided to come up here and do a story on the Research Center, and I've Just love it here. I love what you people do. And, as JC touched about it a few minutes ago, they have a mission statement that they serve all types of motorsports. But you know what? You can have a mission statement, but it's what you do with your actions that speaks louder than the mission statement, and they do it here. They've had talks here on Indianapolis, Road America, and other circuits. But also, as they said in the mission statement, they're about all forms of motorsports, and they recognize short track local racing. About a year ago or so, Dr. Dick Bergman was here to talk about the short track division known as Super Modifieds, with emphasis on the Oswego Speedway. And here, about a year later, the center invites us back, a local track, Holland Speedway, which is about local racers, local fans, local people. So I thank the Research Center for recognizing all forms of motorsports, and including, as you can see by evidence by these talks, they also include the local short tracks of our area, and that's very important, and I applaud them for it. So thank you to the staff of the Research Center. Now on to Holland Speedway. In October of 2012, I was invited along with Holland's General Manager Tim Bennett to write a book on the history of Holland Speedway. It's put out by Arcadia Publishing, which has done other books, including they have one out last year by Bill Green and Michael Argensinger on Watkins Glen International. And it's a photojournalistic look at the history of Holland Speedway. We worked on the book long and hard all winter and all spring and all summer of last year. And the book, which I have right here, came out this past September. It's 127 pages. It has photos in there, over 200, from all the eras of Holland Speedway's racing history. And to open it up, Holland Speedway has been a sporting institution in Western New York for going on 55 years. It all started in 1960. And it started by three men. At that time that they purchased land and they built the Speedway, they were of college age. But these three men, the co-founders, co-promoters, and co-owners of Holland Speedway, Ronald Bennett, Gordon Becker, and Richard Knox, they were kindergarten classmates. That's how far they go back together. And in the late 1950s, Ron Bennett drove a stock car of his own. And of course, Gordon and Richard were involved. But they had a dream, these three young men, to build and operate their own speedway. So they purchased land about 1 mile west of the village of Holland, up in the hills up there, and they built Holland Speedway. And for those of you who maybe aren't familiar, Holland is 35 miles southeast of Buffalo. It's down in southeastern Erie County. So it's just a short 35 miles away from the Buffalo proper area. So it's very close to the Buffalo market. It's, as I said, a sporting institution for many years. They purchased this land up on what is now the Holland-Glenwood Road. And back then, things didn't always go together with a bunch of machinery and so on. They basically built the track themselves. For example, the planking for the original grandstand, as well as the planking, the wooden planking that formed the outer guardrail. They brought trees down, brought them to North Collins, New York. They had those trees made into wooden planking. From there, they were transported to Holland Speedway, and then they put the original guardrails up, which were affixed to vertical railroad ties. A lot of manual work, a lot of hard work. In fact, Ron told me one time that when they were building the Speedway, they sometimes doubted if the track would ever open because so much work, so much preparation, but it did open. Also, Holland is known for its high banks. It has 17 degrees roughly of banking. Now, back when the Speedway was built, what they had to do, turns 1 and 2 are at the south end of the Speedway. And those, they had to actually dig out the earth and sculpt out the earth to make the banking. Then what they did is, they took all the dirt that they dug out of turns 1 and 2, they moved that down to the north end of the Speedway, to the turns 3 and 4, and they built up the banking off of the dirt that they dug out of turns 1 and 2. So the dirt from 1 and 2 became the banking of 3 and 4. Now, finally they were ready to open, and the first race at Holland was on June 24th, 1960. And as Ron told me, and also Gordon Becker, it'd be wonderful if they could sit here today and tell you that that first day of racing at Holland way back on June 24th, 1960 was a great success. But The truth is, it was a bit of a catastrophe of sorts, not truly a catastrophe, but they had a problem where it was Holland opened as a dirt track. It opened up as a 1/3 mile dirt track that seated 1,200 people at that time. And again, 1/3 of a mile. But during the running of the race program, which was run in the afternoon, the dust got so bad that they eventually had to cancel the race because of dangerous conditions. So yes, they were down, but as we know, they were far from out. What they did was they got together, they decided that perhaps nighttime racing was the way to go. They purchased lights, they put up the lighting, more work to be done, but they eventually got the lights up. They started racing about a month or so later, and the rest is history. Holland Speedway, the races went fine from that point. And 55 years later, they're still running most of the race programs at night, but it was better back then to run the dirt track at night, even sometimes today, because you can keep moisture in the track and so on. So once they got past that first hiccup of the first race, everything has been smooth sailing from there for the most part. Other noted achievements in that first couple of years is that in 1964, the track underwent its first major change when it went from a 1/3 mile to a 3/8 mile. So it was expanded in the corners, it was expanded in the straightaways, and it became 3/8 of a mile. And today, Holland is still that 3/8 of a mile configuration. Another prominent date came in 1967, when for the first time Holland aligned themselves with NASCAR. And that association goes on to this day. In 1967, they were NASCAR sanctioned, and then in 1982, they followed right in with the NASCAR, what was in the NASCAR Winston Racing Series back when R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company was involved, through 1999. And then when R.J. Reynolds got out of the sponsorship and sanctioning of NASCAR because of political reasons and other so on and so forth, because of the cigarette smoking, anti-sentiment, and so on, the series was taken over as a NASCAR Dodge Weekly Racing Series. Holland continued on with them. And in the last few years, it's gone over to the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. And to this day, and for this coming season, Holland will continue to be NASCAR sanctioned through the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. So they've been sanctioned every year by NASCAR since 1967. So, and then basically, probably the most major change that happened at Holland occurred in 1968. After running as a dirt track surfaced facility from 60 to 67, in 1968, the promoters decided to pave the track and make it asphalt. There was various reasons as to why, but basically, as Ron explained to me in an article I did on him a few years ago, Ron Bennett, that they were businessmen, they had outside businesses outside of racing, they had other things going on. Preparation of a dirt track is very labor intensive, it's very time consuming. They felt it was better to just get on with the asphalt era, pave the track, and that was the paving, 1968. And of course, for many years now, Holland's been known as the high-banked asphalt track that it is. And then in 72, the track was repaved, and then it's had various paving jobs since. And also, starting in the 70s, Holland increased their grandstand attendance to 7,000 capacity. And now today it's been even updated even more, that for some of their larger events, they can seat up to just over 9,000 people, just under 10,000 people. So you can see there's been growth at the facility, there's been growth in the grandstand, and so on. But anyway, that's part of the early years of Holland. And now for the rest of the presentation, for my part of it, I brought along today some photos that are actually in the book, and I'll talk to each photo and say a little bit about it. And I think through seeing a photo image and me talking about it will be a little bit more interesting, the history of Holland Speedway. This first photo is actually one you may recognize if you happen to see the cover of the book. This is the cover photo for the Holland International Speedway book that we just put out. This is taken in around 1970 or so. It's getting ready for a race. You can see the early grandstand there. And also, it just so happens that just a few minutes ago, a gentleman came in, introduced himself to me, who I'd never met before. He's right down here. His name is Paul Beach. Paul tells me that his car is in that starting field. A little towards the back, he said. Wow. But I'm sure you finished much higher than that in the race itself. But so we actually have someone who came here today that is in that photo. And if anybody else is in that grandstand photo, let me know. But anyway, so anyway, that's the early 1970s, and I like this photo because it shows the high banks of Holland. It shows the grandstand at that time. It's just a nice photo of that early era of Holland asphalt racing. Now, oh good, it works. Now this next photo is two of the more prominent individuals in the history of Holland Speedway. And this also happens to be in the book, they all are in the book actually, but on the left is a gentleman that, if you know Holland Speedway, he needs no introduction. On the left is Holland's, considered by many, the greatest driver in the history of Holland International Speedway. That's Art Clark, also known as the master of the Holland High Banks. Art is to Holland Speedway what Richard Petty is to NASCAR, what Don Garlitz was to NHRA drag racing. He's the face of Holland Speedway as far as the history of the drivers. Again, he was the master, and I could tell you that, but sometimes you got to back things up with numbers. So if you allow me just to cheat and read my notes here. In his career, this is at Holland, Art won other tracks as well, but just at Holland, Art Clark piled up 11 Premier Division championships. Art raced there for almost over 40 years, so Holland's had various lead divisions or headlining divisions through their history. But Art won 11 Premier Division titles, most of them in the NASCAR late models. Of those 11 championships, he won 8 on asphalt and 3 on dirt. So no matter what the surface, Art could drive it. Also, he has 167 verified Holland wins, 97 on asphalt, and he has 70 on dirt. So again, many-time winner, either surface. You put Art on it, he was good on it. And now, on the right is Ron Bennett, who was one of the 3 gentlemen that founded Holland Speedway. Here, Ron is presenting another trophy to Art. I'm sure he did a lot of that during the early years. Ron is still to the Speedway, working with his son Tim Bennett today, operating the Speedway. Ron has been there since day one, as I said. And outside of racing, Ron has accomplished a lot also. He's a successful businessman. He has area businesses. He also was a past politician in Erie County. He's a past Erie County legislator. And he also has a successful law practice, which he operates to this day, along with a couple other partners. So you can imagine having a law career, other businesses, and politics involvement. He's been a very busy man over many years. And yet he found time to operate the Speedway. But he also points out that because of the fact that he was so busy, and Richard Knox was also busy with his businesses, that between Richard Knox and Gordon Becker, Ron gives a lot of credit to those two for keeping the Speedway going on a day-to-day basis in the early years, because Ron was there as part of it, obviously, but he had other things to do as well. Now, I spoke of Art Clark as maybe the greatest driver in the history of Holland Speedway. However, this gentleman has one honor that Art doesn't have, just the way things shake out. This gentleman, as you can see by the name on his shirt, his first name was Ed. This gentleman is Ed Baldwin. Ed has one distinction that nobody else will ever have. Ed is the very first champion of the Holland Speedway. Back in 1960, the lead class was the modern stocks, and Ed Baldwin won the first championship at Holland Speedway. So many have won championships since, but he'll always be the first champion of Holland Speedway. And a little interesting story, he hails from Pennsylvania, and he didn't really have any plans to race, didn't even know that Holland Speedway was being built. But one day he happened to stop in the Yorkshire Diner, which is a diner which is down in the arcade area. Yeah. He stopped in for dinner there one night or lunch, I don't know what it was. He happened to look at the restaurant eating his dinner. He saw a poster advertising the opening of the brand new Holland Speedway coming up. So he didn't know of Holland Speedway until he saw this poster in the Yorkshire Diner. He said, that sounds interesting. He pursued it, ended up driving at Holland, and won their first championship. So he got quite a bit out of that dinner at the diner, not just, I'm sure, food, but he also got, he would not, I don't know if he would ever known a Holland Speedway if he hadn't stopped in the diner that particular day. So that's part of the lore of Ed Baldwin, Holland's first champion. Now, every track needs rivals. It happens in every form of racing. This next gentleman in this picture on the left-hand side is another great driver from the history of Holland Speedway. Those of you familiar with Holland Speedway, this is a very young Dick Flagg. Dick Flagg drove at Holland Speedway for many years. This is him in the 1960s accepting a trophy from another figure that was prominent in the early days of Holland racing. That's Holland's original starter, Miles Whitey Gorsuch, who passed away just a few years ago. Whitey flagged, I believe, at Cuba Raceway, other tracks, and so for people that were around in that era, Whitey was quite the character on the flag stand. And here he's posing for the Victory Lane photo with Dick Flagg. And just like Richard Petty had a rivalry with David Pearson, Mario Andretti had a rivalry with A.J. Foyt, for example. Dick Flagg, in the early years, was the rival to Art Clark. When you went to Holland Speedway during that time, for many years thereafter, the jackets in the crowd, they either were Art Clark blue jackets with the number 7 on them, or Dick Flagg, number 33, orange and white jackets. They each had their legions of fans, and they were all loyal to their drivers. And again, it was hero worship. These local guys were heroes to the fans of Holland Speedway. Just like Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon out in NASCAR today, these were the local guys making it happen on the local track. And that's just was great to see and experience. Now, Dick Flagg had 5 premier Holland championships, not as many as Art, but when you look at the championship years he won, in 1968 he was the co-champion with Eddie Anker, but he also won championships in 75, 76, 84, and 89. That's a lot of years to be competitive and to be racing hard and being good at your craft. And Dick was good at his craft. And as I said, him and Art had quite the rivalry. It was, like I said, it's what the fans came to see. And there was other drivers in this era as well, of course, but these two gentlemen are what many people think of when you think of Holland Speedway. This other gentleman here is, there's a prominent name in the history of Holland as well, which we'll get into in a little while. The name is Wiley, the Wiley family. Here we have Don Wiley Sr., who won a race, and there's Whitey, of course, giving him the checkered flag. Don Wiley Sr. was part of the Wiley's racing family's racing heritage. The Wiley family had a very interesting racing name. The Wiley family at Holland was known as the Ghetto Gang. That was their name. They were from South Buffalo. And the interesting thing about them is that when they raced at Holland for many years, in the third turn of the track, they would go back to the back part of the pits, park there, and put up no trespassing signs. Nobody allowed in the Wiley area except the Wileys. I don't know exactly why. I haven't talked to them about it, but that's something that some of the people that remember from Holland Speedway shared with me. So I guess I'm sure I don't know exactly the reason why, but no trespassing. It was the only no trespassing zone at Holland. And also, for those of you who might know of the other Wileys, Don is the brother of another longtime Holland racer, Ron Pops Wiley. And he's also the uncle of Rick Wiley, who was a multi-time champion, and we'll talk about Rick a little bit later. But that is Don Wiley Sr. Notice the coupe car he drove. And this is another gentleman that rates prominently in the history of Holland Speedway. Of course, Ron Bennett on the right. But on the left is a driver named Bruce Van Dyke. Bruce was the first ever Canadian driver to make an impact. He was the first Canadian invader driver to come down and race at Holland Speedway. And he raced only the special races at Holland. He was not a weekly competitor, but he was, here he's accepting a trophy for winning one of the early Holland late model 100s. So this is him after 100 laps of work. Lincoln Ford was his sponsor. And the interesting thing also is the name Ford. As Ron Bennett shared with me, back during this era of Holland Speedway, a lot of the drivers that raced Chevrolet products. Bruce comes down from Canada with a Ford and wins the race. So he was one of the earlier banner wavers of Ford at the Holland Speedway. But as I said, think of him as the original Canadian invader of Holland Speedway. And Holland Speedway to this day has had many Canadian drivers since this time compete there. Here's a picture that I chose mainly because of the pure nostalgic nature of it. The driver is in the middle. His name is Don Klink. You can see the fancy driving apparel of the day. The basic open. I don't know how many guys that drove race cars with flannel shirts had buttons missing, but you can see the high-tech helmet, and of course the jeans, and probably he had probably loafers or something like that. But as all of you can probably remember, that's what it looked like at Holland Speedway and other racetracks. And this was in 1961. Don earned the 1961 Modern Stock Championship. So he followed up Ed Baldwin as the next champion of Holland Speedway. He was a very popular driver with the fans, I'm told. Very well liked. And he had more racing left in him, but tragically Don died in 1964 from a heart attack away from the racetrack. So he had a short time at Holland, but he made an impact. And I just like this photo because it shows like even the women with their brand new dresses of the day and so on. It just kind of gives a flavor to the history. And of course, Ron Bennett there with his stylish haircut, right, Tim? Yeah. And look at the giant trophy. Well, like I say, it was simpler back then, but many will probably agree maybe it was better back then. Although, of course, today's racing is great too. So I'm just kidding about that.
Yeah.
But, you're a great champion too, George.
Yeah, the strap over the door.
Anyway, this gentleman here is a gentleman well known to Holland fans, Stroker McGurk. Stroker McGurk, does anybody know what his real name was?
Harold.
Yeah, Harold McGrath. Out of Harold McGrath came the racing name Stroker McGurk. But Stroker is shown here. He won the championship at Holland in 1969. He won that car as part of the deal. That's a Ford Mustang, and they tell me that for many years he drove that car all over town. He hailed from North Collins, New York, so people in that area are very familiar with that Ford Mustang. There was a many trophies that he won because in 1969, Stroker McGurk was the driver of the year at Holland Speedway. And he raced on for many years thereafter. And Stroker lived to be age 80. He passed away May 6th of last year. But from North Collins, again, just another great driver. Look how he dressed for the banquet, huh? Looked pretty sharp there, but Stroker was a good guy. And many people at Holland Speedway, when I talk to people about Holland Speedway, they always talk about Stroker McGurk. Anybody know who that driver is on the right?
Tiny Lund.
Yeah, Tiny Lund. Over the years, Holland Speedway has attracted several nationally ranked drivers to either compete at Holland or in later years to make autograph sessions and so on. The old Corbo Cup days, we would bring Cup drivers in to do exhibition type races. This picture is from 1967. Tiny Lund came to Holland. He was a driver of national status at that time, and he came to Holland Speedway to run a race at Holland Speedway. Now his real name is Dwayne Lund. He hailed from Georgia, and he came to the race in the 67 Holland 100. Here he is being interviewed. And career notes on him is he won the 1963 Daytona 500, but then in 1975 he tragically lost his life at the Talladega Superspeedway. But Tiny Lund, again, to have him come by Holland Speedway at that time in their history was a big deal for the fans of racing, particularly of NASCAR racing. Here is, I mentioned in 1968, it was time to leave the dirt and go asphalt racing. This is the paving of Holland Speedway in 1968. The infield, of course, was cleared out, and that is the high banks as they appeared. That was the original, well, they eventually went from wooden guardrails to Armco type guardrails. There they are. That's one of the people sweeping the track, and that's what Holland Speedway became in 1968. Everybody's still awake, I hope. Okay. This gentleman here also is from a racing family well known throughout the southern tier of western New York, the Tingyu family. This is Bill Tingyu. Bill Tinyu hailed from Franklinville, New York. He was a 1964 amateur champion at Holland. He was the brother of Pete Tinyu. And the interesting thing about this is the Tinyu brothers, Pete and Bill, won championships at Holland, both in 1964. They were both champions. Bill was the amateur champion, and Pete claimed the modern stocks title. And also I brought this photo into the presentation. His car was known as the Hustler, as you can see on the front quarter panel there. And also kudos to Bill, because you might notice that he's disguising his left hand in the window of the car. Bill had a deformed left hand. Didn't really have a left hand of sorts. He drove one-handed and yet won races, and he won the amateur championship in 1964. So I think a lot of credit goes to Bill for driving one-handed against top flight competition and succeeding. This gentleman here, again, another famous family of Holland Speedway, the Bliss family. This is DeVere Bliss, who is posing with his Hell Big Equipment entry. This was in the new car division. He was a popular racer as well. And in later years, he's the father of champions Vern Bliss and Mark Bliss. They're the sons of DeVere. And DeVere had some success at Holland in other divisions. DeVere won only one late model race, however. It was on June 14th, 1969. But DeVere is a popular guy. His sons have brought much success to the family in later years at Holland. And so I thought that DeVere was a nice guy to bring into the presentation. This gentleman here is truly one of the good guys of Holland racing, the late Eddie Anker. Eddie Anker raced in late models, always the car number 55. He was one of the most beloved racers of Holland history. When I talk to people about Eddie Anker, they all talk about the great racer he was and what a good guy he was as well. He was a 1968 new car champion. He was a co-champion that year. He and Dick Flagg won the championship together in 1968. They both tied in points. And Eddie Anker is tied for 17th on the Holland Asphalt career late model wins list with 7. His first win came on June 22nd, 1968, and he persevered and lasted, and his last race win was on August 20th, 1988. So first win 68, last race win 88. So again, Eddie Anker was always around. He was always in the Holland field year after year after year. This is just a photo of the 1969 Holland Speedway champions at the championship banquet which Holland held each year. Stroker McGirt is on the left. We just talked about him. He was the new car champion. The next two guys, second from the left and third from the left, the second gentleman is Sonny Whitmire, and the gentleman next to him is Roger Kelly. Roger tied that year for the championship in the new car division. I'm sorry, let me check my notes. No, I'm sorry, the semi-late model division. Prior to 1971, in the years immediately preceding it, Holland had the semi-late model division and they had the new car division. In 1971, the management of Holland decided to combine the classes into one. So in 1971 was when they had the first NASCAR late model class as we know it. Before that, it was semi-late model and new cars, and they were combined. And then the gentleman second from the right is Ron Feit. He was the amateur division champion that year. And the last gentleman on the right is Joe Middleton. He ran a mini stocks. Now, I spoke a bit about the man in the middle, Roger Kelly. Roger merits special consideration as well because Kelly won the 1968 Kendall 100. He was tied for 29th on the Holland full-blown wins list with 5 victories, but his career was relatively short. His first victory at Holland was August 11th, 1971, and his last was May 18th, 1974. So a short career, but he compiled 5 wins during that time and got a championship as well. So, and as far as Sonny Whitmire raced at Holland a long time as well. The Whitmire name is long known there at Holland Speedway. He ran Sonny Whitmire actually won late model championships at Holland in 1979 and 1980. And Sonny is tied for 7th on the Holland all-time asphalt late model win list with 17. He's tied with 1994 champion Dave Heitzhaus. That's pretty good company to be in because Dave was a great driver as well and is a good driver. Sonny's first win at Holland came on June 17th, 1972, and his last was August 3rd, 1996. So he was winning some in and out from 72 to 96. That shows you some of these people became household names at Holland, and not just because of their accomplishments, but because they raced a heck of a long time at Holland Speedway and they were loyal to Holland Speedway. This shot is just a shot to show you that Holland Speedway, and Tim will talk more about this later, but Holland Speedway has long been a believer of VIP hospitality suites, that type of situation. And this was the very first VIP tower, a true VIP tower. This was in the early 1970s, and it was the first, as I said, VIP tower they had. It was for guests and so on. It was they could have groups in there to cater to. Groups could go in there, and they recognized the fact that you can bring spectators through the gates one by one, and you could also have VIP sponsors and different social groups and stuff come in, and rent a booth and have a fun night as a whole group, and that's where it all started. And just as note, if you're wondering who the cars are in that picture, this is the limited sportsman class. Car number 5 on the outside of the first row is Don Scheider. Inside of him is number 34, Mike Logston, who I know he may still be racing. He was as of last year or the year before he was still racing. And then in the back, that number 9 car there is Rich Rogers. And they're all coming down the Holland Speedway straightaway. And they're up on the flag stand. You can see on the flag stand is some sort of dignitary getting the race ready to go. So that's the early 70s, Holland VIP, 1970 style. This shot here is a shot I just liked because it just speaks for itself. It's the Holland Speedway. Let me just find my notes, so I apologize. This was the starting field for the 1970 Kendall 100, one of Holland's big races. And note, yes, on the front row, outside pole, Art Clark, inside pole, Dick Flagg. And that's the Holland Speedway pace car. Every year I can remember, Holland's always had a pace car, always been sponsored. And this particular early era, the pace car sponsor was Leo Martin Ford. But to this day, the Martin dealerships are still involved with Holland Speedway. They are now affiliated with the Chevrolet family of dealerships. But they've also been a great supporter. As I say, they were Ford, now they're Chevy. But you can see the pace car with the flags off the back. I like the flags, it adds flair to the pace car. And they're getting ready to go. That's a 1970 Kendall 100. These next couple of photos, there's not much to talk about, other than I thought I wanted to show all of you. If you went to a race at Holland in the early 1970s, this is what the track looked like. This is what the cars looked like. Various models, various types. That's what you would see if you were, instead of in this seat here in the auditorium, if you were sitting in the grandstand seat at Holland, that's what you saw. And that was the limited sportsman class making laps in the early 70s. I'm sorry, that's the new car class. And then this was the limited sportsman. We saw a little peek of them at the last photo. But this is the limited sportsman, cranking it up, and look at the coupes and old styles. I'm sure a lot of you have been around the racetrack for a long time, can pick out your favorite body styles, your favorite types. There was nothing cookie cutter about these cars back then. They were all home built. And that's what it looked like if you were at Holland back then. This photo is of a gentleman that had a prominent place also in Holland history. This driver is the late Bruce Piken. Bruce Piken hailed from East Aurora, New York. Bruce was a successful driver at Holland. He won the 1977 Street Stock Championship there. Here he accepts a checkered flag in the late models in 1979. And also, I started to go to Holland Speedway as a young boy about this time. And Bruce's car was my favorite only because it kind of looked like the Allison car. It's Miller High Life. You'll see it says Miller High Life by Gore on the back panel there. two things about that. If you don't know, many do, Gore Distributing was located in western New York. It was owned by Dick Hammond, the late Dick Hammond out of Orchard Park. And Dick, of course, is well known across the world and the country for sponsoring cars in the Indianapolis 500, also various cars on the USAC Midget and Sprint Car Series. So Dick had a good standing in the national racing scene. But back in western New York, Dick took care of the racers and the tracks of western New York. Through his Genesee beer brand of beer and others, Miller High Life, his Gore Distributing dealership, he sponsored many drivers at different tracks in western New York, and also had various races that he sponsored. And Bruce drove the Miller High Life Special, and the sponsorship, of course, was Dick Hammond's. Bruce would retire from the sport as a driver. He won the 1981 Late Model Championship, so he reached the top. He was the 1981 Holland Late Model Champion. He eventually would retire and become Holland's race director for a period of years. And then on April 7th, 1991, at the age of 46, Bruce passed away from complications from leukemia. And I know he's also had other family members that worked at the track over the period of time, so that's the story of Bruce Pikett. And I also wanted to mention about Dick Hammond and what he did for western New York racing over the years. Well, I mentioned Dick Flagg and I mentioned Art Clark. Once they actually had a race together of sorts. Here's a photo. I just put in the book because I like the photo. You know, that's Art Clark posing with the victory flag. You'll notice the taped number 7 over the number 33 of Dick Flagg. Apparently, as the story is told, Art Clark had problems in a race. He loaned his car to, Dick Flagg had problems or Art Clark did, that's right. Dick Flagg loaned him his car, they put the number on, and Art took the car to victory. So I just thought it was an unusual photo. You have these two rivals, and here they have their names on the numbers on the same cars. And again, just a quick note, you can see back on the rear quarter panel, Genesee Beer. You know who sponsored them. You know who sponsored it for many years. Yeah, Dick Hammond and so on. But that's a little bit later than his original photo. And when Art had the flannel shirt on. Here's two drivers that are known to many fans well beyond the Holland High Banks. Every so often, the NASCAR Modifieds came to visit at Holland Speedway, and it was always a big time when they came in. And this photo here, many of you probably already know the drivers, at least one of them. This photo, of course, number 61, the late Richie Evans. The other driver below him is Wayne Anderson of Long Island. Richie competed many times at the Holland International Speedway over the years. Usually in the later years it was just dropping by for whenever the NASCAR tour would come to town. But in Richie's career, he basically accomplished a lot at Holland. Many may not realize that for a period of time, the Rapid Roman, as Richie was known, he raced at Holland Speedway, and Richie won 11 races in his career at Holland Speedway. And he won the Holland Modified Championship at Holland in 78, 79, 80, and 82. So we all know him as the 9-time national modified champion. And we also know him as a member of the 2012 class of inductees to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. I don't know how many people ever realize that Richie also is a multiple-time champion at the Holland Speedway. He ran there during those years, and like everything else Richie did, he was successful at it. So that's the Rapid Roman Richie Evans and his contributions to Holland Speedway. Now it's time for a little comic relief, I hope. Anybody that's ever raced a car or does race a car knows that sometimes you need support from home, as well as some explaining. And this picture here I just thought was funny because this photo was taken in 1979, and due to the danger of racing, the time spent in the shop, away from the family, and maybe the cost of racing, and so on and so forth, this team decided it was time to score some brownie points with the sponsor that really mattered. Thanks to our wives. And I just thought that was funny. Notice the Chevy 2 body, but that says it all. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys I heard have raced have done the same thing, but That's, to this day, one of the primary classes at Holland Speedway is the three-quarter or TQ midgets. TQ midgets, many of you know, raced for many, many years all throughout the country, all throughout the Northeast. In fact, you could do a few conversation series events on the lore of TQ midget racing through the years because they have quite a history. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who I know that have raced midgets through the years, and the TQ midgets still race at Holland. They've raced there for many years, and they represent the factor of the Holland program where you have full-bodied stock cars, but also at Holland, ever since I've known it, they've always had an open wheel division to throw in there, usually the pro modifieds or the modifieds, and now, of course, they have the open cockpit, open wheel TQ midgets. This photo was taken back in 1979. The driver with the 33 with the Valvoline sticker on the wing, that is Dick Watkins from Grand Island, New York, who I still speak to from time to time. The driver below him in the inside groove is Bruce Belitsky. And the other gentleman saying TQ midget number 9, that is the late Harry Macy. If you don't know Harry Macy, he was a legend in the sport for many reasons. Very personally good friend of mine. I know a good friend of many of you in the room. Harry was everything about racing in TQ midgets. He ran indoor series races, outdoor series races, and series. And Harry was the car owner to the day of his death. He passed away this past May at over 80 years of age. But a lot of people enjoy racing today because of Harry Macy. But again, I have a deep deal of respect for all the TQ midget drivers. They're a very fast division at Holland. These cars, as I tell people, they're not play toys. They're the real machine. And I enjoy seeing them, and I'm glad they're still at Holland. This gentleman here on the left just happens to be in the room today. In 1982, Holland became part of the new NASCAR Winston Racing Series program, which was R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company's, that was their deal then. They formed the new NASCAR Winston Racing Series, I said, in 82. And this gentleman here is in the room today, Ronnie Williams. I don't know if you want to stand up, Ronnie. This is Ronnie Williams right here in the first row. That's Ronnie in the photo. Ronnie was part of the NASCAR Winston Racing Series, and he became the very first Winston Racing Series champion at Holland. This was in 1982. And you can see the shiny medallion. That's R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company's representative giving him the trophy. Ron, do you still have that medallion?
Yes, I do.
You did?
Yes.
Oh,
Still have it, and the trophy, too.
and the trophy?
Yeah.
All right. You probably had to get the checkered flag back, right?
Yeah, I had to.
The track wanted it back. Yeah, I know, all right.
It's in your shop.
Yeah, but that's Ronnie Williams. And just to give you an idea, Ronnie raced for many years. And I often kid Ron, his number was Evil 1. E-V-I-L and the numeral 1. So I was ready to stick the number. You say Evil 1 around Western New York racing, that means one thing, Ronnie Williams. And I also kid him, I don't know how he got the name Evil because Ronnie's one of the nicest guys I ever met. I think. Yeah, you are, Ronnie, you are. You never yelled at me about an article I wrote, so that makes you nice.
Okay.
Anyway, this year of 1982, how did he earn that medal? He won 7 of 11 Holland late model events. I mean, you win 7 of 11, that's pretty good batting order. And he grabbed the Winston track title. So I wanted to show with this picture Ronnie, because he's one of the more prominent people. He goes back to the 60s. And also the fact that it was a big moment for Holland when the Winston Racing Series came to their track and sponsored their racing. And Ronnie, you still drove to what, a couple of years ago? You still drive now?
No.
No?
I'm a professional spectator now.
Professional spectator. You still get in for free, don't you? No,
No, I never did.
you never did, that's right. Okay. Well, thank you for your contributions to the sport, Ron.
Oh, thank you.
Now, this gentleman here is not Ronnie Williams. No. Through the years at Holland, they've had an awful lot of colorful characters who drove race cars. Now we're kind of moving into the 80s with Ron. This photo was taken in 1987. This gentleman is Mike Candyman Vargo. Mike had a couple of trademarks. First, he was a darn good race car driver. He won the 88 and 89 NASCAR Charger Championship at Holland. He also was known for his trademark cigar. And also, you might notice in the name, I mentioned Handyman. Mike Vargo was one of the first drivers I knew who recognized the importance of having kids at the racetrack and what it could mean to get kids involved in your future audience. After the races, every race night, Mike got the nickname Candyman because he invited all the kids back to the pit area in Holland after the races and passed out candy. I never got any, but anyway, so I thought that Mike should be remembered because, again, he's a colorful character, and he was very friendly, particularly with the kids. And many drivers since that time do candy-type things. They do autograph sessions. Mike was giving out candy, back in the 80s. And haven't seen Mike in a while, but that was his trademark 21. And also the Charger division was a division that's still in existence at Holland. So that's the Candyman. This is not the race winner. This is a gentleman also that figured prominently in the history of Holland Speedway. His name is Gary Schwab. Gary was a dairy farmer. He hailed from Delavan, New York. Now, don't let this picture fool you. Gary won a lot of races. But I wanted to show this as a dramatic shot. Not everything in Holland, it goes smooth for every driver. Here you can see Gary had a problem on the track, surveying the damage. That's Gary in the driver's suit. By the number 86, that was his trademark number, that was his trademark color scheme. And this photo was taken on August 9th of 1986. But what I remember about Gary, because I dealt with Gary with the paper, Gary was one of the early pioneers of getting local major corporations involved in local racing. Gary was able to get many of you may have heard of the Perry's Ice Cream Company of Akron, New York. Gary was able to get the Perry's Ice Cream Corporation to sponsor him. And he did so for several years. And he did a lot of appearances on behalf of them. And also, back when Gary had the sponsorship, Perry Ice Cream put on a ice cream Sunday night once a year at Holland Speedway. On that night, the fans got free ice cream sundaes. So needless to say, it was very popular at Holland. And I know Gary coordinated that with the staff and management of Holland Speedway. It was a cooperative effort between the two. And Holland Speedway has always coached drivers or worked with drivers on developing their techniques for getting corporate sponsors. And Gary did it well. And as I said, Gary also, he had 10 Holland career late model wins during his career, his first one was on May 14th, 1988, and his last was on August 14th, 1993. He did win a championship in the Chargers. And then Gary passed away on July 8th, 2007 at age 54. He was fixing the roof on his house, and he had an accident and fell off the roof, and Gary left us at the age of 54. He had stopped driving by that time, but I always remember Gary Schwab and his contributions in that marriage between corporate sponsorship and drivers in Holland Speedway. Holland Speedway, for many years, back before it was fashionable for a lot of tracks to be doing it, Holland developed their own video production team. It was called Showtime Productions. It started in 1986. And they had cameras set up on the top of the tower, in the infield, and around the track. And they did their own videotaping and their mixing of videos. And primarily at first, the first couple of years, the videos were done so that fans could come back the next week and purchase copies of the videos, for family and friends of the racers that won and things like that. But eventually, it got bigger. In 1989, Holland put themselves on the airwaves of the cable TV in the Buffalo area. They had a TV show on each week called Thunder in the Hills, this week at Holland Speedway. And they put that show on, and they produced that show. And each week in the 89 season, people could tune in it was Wednesday night usually, and watch a half-hour show about Holland Speedway, complete with video highlights. And this is part of the original video crew at Holland. In the bottom row, on the left, is Bob Gilbert. He was one of the original camera people. On the right, the gentleman with the Winston officials shirt on, is Bruce Roll. Bruce was the director of Showtime Productions and a longtime PR person at Holland Speedway. At the top, on the left-hand side, is a gentleman we called the skipper, Skip Tillinghast. And on the right is Ron Bennett Jr., the son of Ron, and Tim's brother. He was on the video crew, serving the Speedway at the time in the video crew. So that just goes to show you that they were always innovative, thinking of new ways to market themselves. And they were on television, and it was great to see. I know through the years, other people were doing shows, like Glenn Donnelly was doing his dirt program and some others, but for local racing, and also they had the ability, by the way, with this, is that they could send highlights to the local news channels, so they could produce highlights if they had to for the 11 o'clock news. So just another way of getting the word out about Holland Speedway. Yes, this is Art Clark. This was just a photo of human interest. I thought it was a neat photo. I don't know if Art would agree, but this is a picture of Art Clark on a night that he didn't win. Surveying damage in the infield. I just showed as a human interest that even for the best drivers, they all have their nights. This was a night where it didn't go so well for Art. And also, it's kind of hard to see, but on the rear left-hand quarter panel, you'll see Gordon Automotive. Gordon Automotive and Art Clark were married together for many years and one of the most successful driver relationships in the history of Holland. We talked about Gary Schwab, we talked about Dick Hammond and Dick Flagg and so on, but for many years, Rich Denny of Gordon Automotive was the sponsor and was involved with the Art Clark operation. And so when you talk about some of the great merit sponsorships, this is one of them. It's right up there with Jimmy Johnson and Lowe's and Jeff Gordon and DuPont. This was the local version of it. And that's Art Clark a few years later. In fact, this photo was taken in 1987. You heard me speak about the original founders of Holland Speedway, Ronald Bennett, Gordon Becker, and Richard Knox. This is Gordon Becker. Gordon Becker served, not only did he help build the Speedway and found it, but Gordon served as the general manager of Holland Speedway from 1960 until 1999. Tim is the current general manager, but Gordon served a lot of years. And I can tell you from the media standpoint, he was great to work with. You call him about Holland information, he gave it to you. You needed a driver interview, a driver phone number, he gave it to you. Gordon also gave us some of the slides for the book out of his personal collection. He still resides up on the Blanchard Road in Holland, New York. Just a genuinely nice man. I thought Gordon should get credit in public for all he's done for the track. And what he was doing here is Holland Speedway basically made sure that every angle covered when it came to presenting their racing programs. And what Gordon's doing here, this photo was taken in the 1990s. Don't have the exact date, but before the season started, Gordon was giving a class to the program sellers on what he said was the art and proper way to sell Speedway programs. And then, of course, from there, many kids got their start selling the programs. So here's Gordon teaching the class, one of the years of how to sell programs. And one note on Gordon, he's still around, he's still active. I met with him a few times in the production of the book. Gordon is still involved in special promotions. He's now with the traveling James E. Straits Show, which, if any of you don't know, the James Straits Show, they're the amusement people. They're the ones that provide the rides for the Erie County Fair as well as the State Fair in Syracuse. So Gordon's now still in the promotions business. He's with the James E. Straits Show, and still there to this day. But that's Gordon Becker, one of the three founders. Holland Speedway is unique in Western New York and many other places. A few tracks around the country through the years have had figure-8 racing. Holland's had it for many years. And this is just to show you a typical shot of the infield figure-8 oval. Why did I say oval? It's figure-8.
Yeah.
I'll be all right. Well, at least I didn't call it a drag strip. But anyway, this is,
road course.
you can see the out-of-control cars. You can see the cars coming through the X. This is a popular class at Holland. You can imagine the cars zooming around the figure-8, nearly missing each other. Sometimes they connect, but you can't talk about the history of Holland Speedway without including the figure-8 cars because they've been there for many years. They'll be there again this year. And when you say at Holland Speedway they're going to meet at the X, that's what they meant, the figure-8 class. You heard me talk before, way back when you may recall, about Don Wiley Sr. This is his nephew and also the son of Ron Pops Wiley. This is one of the greatest champions in the history of Holland Speedway. This is Rick Wiley, a 7-time NASCAR late model champion. Rick won a lot of races, a lot of championships, and even though you can't quite make out the whole name on the back of the junior starter there, he drove early years in late model on his own, but then he eventually hooked up with Vince Fallone and the Fallone trucking team out of North Collins, New York. And together, Vince Fallone as owner and sponsor, and Rick Wiley as driver and their team, as I said, won 7 Holland late model championships. I talked about Hammond and Flagg, Gordon and Art Clark, Fallone, and Wiley are right up there. And just to give you an idea, 7 career championships in the late models. He's third on the Holland late model win list with 60 wins. His first came on June 25th, 1983. His last on September 2nd, 2000. He's also the husband of Karen Wiley. Some veteran fans remember her as Karen Engelman. She was a one-time Perry Speedway champion. And now he currently works with his 2 sons who are racing, Scott Wiley and Jake Wiley. But he, along with Art Clark, Dick Flagg, Vern Bliss, are some of the biggest racing successful people at Holland Speedway. And you can't talk about Holland Speedway without talking about Rick Wiley. He still lives in Derby, New York. And of course, it's the Wiley legacy at Holland. It started in the 60s, and it still goes on. Before you heard me mention about DeVere Bliss. This is his son, Vern Bliss. Vern Bliss was an accomplished driver in his own right. Vern was a true legend at Holland as well. He was the 1986 Challenger champion at Holland. He was the 1993 Charger championship. And he went on to win 5 late model championships at Holland. The first in 1999, then he won the championship the next 4 seasons consecutively, from 2001 to 2004. He's 5th on the Holland late model win list with 44 wins. And he also won Holland's prestigious Budweiser 100 on 3 occasions. As I said, he also has a brother who raced, Mark Bliss. Mark is a 2-time champion at Holland. And the thing about Vern is, consider he had 5 championships. Vern drove until 2005. And then at the age of 40, he decided he wanted to do other things in life. He had a growing family. He had a lot of pressure racing, a lot of things. He told me he was retiring. I said, what? At age 40, he walked away from the sport after winning 4 consecutive championships. I said, Vern, you'll be back. He's not been back yet. Vern walked away from the sport, made a clean cut, and but what a legacy he left in the years that he raced. And a couple of years ago, he was inducted into the 4-score Hall of Fame. So I have about 5 more photos and we'll move on. Everybody doing okay out there?
Doing good.
No one's asleep? Well, you might be. All right, I think we're good. This is just more of a historical shot. That driver is Bob Manco. You know, maybe you'll remember that in the mid-90s, NASCAR created the NASCAR, at that time, Craftsman Truck Series, now the Camping World Truck Series. Holland had their own. Based on the Camping World Truck Series, or at that time the Craftsman Truck Series, Holland created the Pro Truck Division. And this is its last champion, Bob Manco. He won the championship there in 2002. The trucks ran Holland from 1996 to 2002. Then it was decided to go on to other divisions, and the trucks were no longer raced there. But this is a vehicle that for a few seasons raced every week, week in and week out at Holland Speedway. This was Bob Manco's first championship, and it was also the last as the trucks moved on. But here in 2002, he stuck the victory along the way in his championship campaign. I spoke about hospitality. Here it is, Holland Speedway style. This photo here was taken back in the 90s. This is looking out, if you were at Holland's front grandstand, this is looking out the back of the grandstand. You can see they have VIP tents, VIP picnic tables, an amusement park. They also had different patios, and they're all sponsored and so on. This was what it was like to go to Holland for a day. They had special events for groups out there, groups of all types. Fans could sit at the picnic tables and enjoy themselves. I think you'll agree it's a pretty nice atmosphere to come to a short track and see. And we saw the photo in 1970 or so of the very first VIP booth. That's still there, and what you don't see here is that this is behind basically turn 4, the back straightaway, or the front straightaway. If you were to go down to the first turn area of Holland today, you'd see more patio bars and VIP areas back there. And yes, they also have a swimming pool. I've not been in it yet, but they have a swimming pool as well. So I mean, it's all about entertainment, basically. You get racing entertainment. But this is, from my standpoint as a writer, this was to show the historical development of the facility itself. May Urban. Women have competed for many years at Holland Speedway. Many have reached success. This is May Urban. This photo of May was taken on August 13th, 2005. She won in a class that used to compete at Holland called the Queen Bees. The Queen Bees were around for a few seasons. There was a female-only division, and in 2005, May won this race. But even bigger, a couple years later, the Queen Bee class was combined into the Hornet class. Now, if you were a woman Queen Bee racer, you got put in with the Hornet drivers, the men, and it was I guess you would call it a co-ed division. And in 2008, May became the first Holland Speedway driver in the history of Holland Speedway to win the season championship in a division that included men and women in competition. So she beat the women, she also beat the boys that season. So this is real history. I mean, it's the first time Holland ever had that happen. 2008, May Urban. And the beat rolled on in 2011 because in 2011, Amy Catalano, who is the car on the outside there, Amy Catalano came to Holland Speedway. She competed, and she made history as well. When May became the first driver to win in a division where men and women competed against each other, the Hornets, that was an important accomplishment. But Amy became the first woman in Holland history to win the championship in Holland's Premier Division, now the NASCAR Pro Modifieds. And she accomplished the feat in 2011, and it was quite a historical moment. And also that year, she parlayed her Holland championship she won the NASCAR New York State Championship as well. She still campaigns in the area today at Spencer Speedway, Holland, and other areas. And she's been joined on the track by her husband Dave, and now also her young son Tommy races. And if you've been around modified racing for a while, the name Catalano is very familiar to a lot of people. But Amy accomplished the feat that year of being the first female Premier Division champion of Holland in 2011. And this is the champions of 2011. I wanted to make sure I got some photos in there of some of the more modern drivers of the time. The driver on the left is Jimmy Lafredo. He won the NASCAR Charger Championship that year. Inside of him is Amy Catalano, who I just spoke about. The driver in the middle is the current late model champion at Holland Speedway. His name is Eldon King III. And Eldon shares a historical significance. Eldon King III has won multiple championships in the late models at Holland the last few years. Back in 1993, his father, Eldon King, won the late model championship. They are the only father-son team in the history of Holland that I'm aware of to both win the Holland NASCAR late model championship. And then next to Eldon, on going right side, is Camden Barber. He was the TQ midget champion that year. Barber name is big out at Holland Speedway. Joe Barber drove out there. John drove out there. Gail Barber, one of the great families of Holland Speedway. And even some of the Barber family are past and current Holland Speedway officials. But young Camden won the TQ midget championship. And the last driver on the right is Eric Brown. Eric still races at Holland. That year, Eric won the Charger Championship. And last but not least, if you've driven down Route 16, south of Buffalo, to Holland Speedway, a couple of miles before you get into downtown Holland, if you will, for years there's always been a sign letting you know that when you come into Holland Speedway, they've got their own hometown speedway here. This picture is from the 1970s. No, I'm sorry, 1980s, obviously. 1980s because it's got the Wisdom Racing series and so on it. It's an iconic sign. It's always been there. It's been replaced in recent years by a new sign. But even today, if you were to leave here and drive down Route 16 heading south before you get to Holland, there's always a sign announcing that you're in Holland Speedway country. the home of Holland International Speedway, now Holland Motorsports Complex. And for the last part of my presentation, I'm now going to call Bill Green up again. This driver here is in the room right now, and along with myself and Tim, he's one of our featured speakers today. I'll let Bill tell you about him, but this is an early picture from August of 2003 of one of the first ever late model victories for George Scorer III, who's our guest driver speaker today. Bill will tell you about him, but George, that was you about 10 years ago or so, one of your first early late model victories. So that's what I hope is a natural segue into Bill and his introduction of Holland Speedway racer George Scorer III. And thank you everybody for your attention.
Thank you very much, Larry. Our next speaker is no stranger around racetracks, especially at Holland and other tracks, Lake Erie. George Scorer III, 28 years old, of Eden, New York. George grew up going to the races with his dad, who won the 1985 Charger Series or Division Championship at Holland. George raced go-karts until he was 15 and then started running super stocks at Holland in 2000. He moved to late model cars in 2001. He placed third in the track point series in 2003, second in 2004. After the last season of weekly late model racing at Holland in 2006, he then shifted his racing activity to Lake Erie Speedway in northeast Pennsylvania, and where in 2012 he won the NASCAR Late Model Division Championship, Division 1. 2013 he came back to Holland, and in the NASCAR Whelen All-American Pro Modified Division, not only did he win his first career win at Holland in June, in fact it was on Father's Day, then he went on to win the championship itself at the end of the season. George's Pro Modified is owned by his father, and the car is sponsored by Southern Erie Construction. Skoda family, he's the fourth generation that works at the family business. Werner, I believe that's what I say, I may not, Brothers Incorporated, a company specializing in formation of construction for residential buildings. For 2014, Skoda has bought a new Troyer chassis and plans to race it occasionally in modified tour events. Skoda will maintain his weekly racing activities at his home track in Holland, New York. George, can you come up and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Nice to be here. Great to see this research center that we've come to. Honestly, I never even knew about it until Larry brought my attention that what's been going on here and all the history that's been collected. And I just think it's great that they're noticing all the small tracks and all the small drivers and local drivers that can get some good publicity around here. My family started in the early 80s. My father and his two cousins, they joined together to team up. Three of them to run the weekly Charger division, and at times my family, my uncle Bob, my father George, and my uncle Gary, who recently passed away a few years ago, it used to be a show for practice because there's only three knuckleheads that would go out there and race each other as hard as they did, and it would be in practice. So years later, our fathers retired, and my other two cousins and I took over that bout. Where I remember one race at Holland, all three of us stuck in the wall together. But the history of Holland, started collecting cans there when I was just a little kid. Me and my best friend Mike Feeblecorn, who's won Pro Modified Division Championship twice there. We've always stuck together. Fathers grew up there. just a lot of history and great people to be involved with. Like Rick Wiley, for example, I've learned a lot from a mentor aspect of him just teaching me how to compose myself in a race car, how to race a long distance race. A lot of great people there helping me out in my career. This year, we're looking forward to coming back and defending our title. We want to be a repeat champion this year. Great car, great sponsors. We have Southern Area Construction, which is a former racer that raced in the late model division, Denny Newrider. Never won any races, and for us to put his name in victory lane the past few years has been great. Coming back this year, we're looking forward to the ROC tour. We're building a brand new car. Great to have Tim put the ROC back on the schedule this year because it's always been a dream of mine to race a modified on the high banks of Holland. It's one of those racetracks where it's great side-by-side racing. There's 3 groups where there should only be 2. You can make 3. Sometimes you're going to be up against the wall, but that's the price to pay when you want to get to victory lane. Other than that, we're just looking forward to a great season. Tim and the track the last few years have been putting on great races and just looking forward to it. So that's pretty much all I got. I don't have a lot of video format the history of Holland, but I'll leave on one note. There's one team that ever lost a race car leaving the track. And I remember this because I was there with my dad. They forgot to strap down the car going up Holland Glenwood. I remember this vividly. The next morning, my grandfather showed up at the race shop, and he goes to my dad, "I don't remember you wrecking in the race." And he goes, "We didn't. We lost the car coming out of the track." Luckily, the only thing that separated the car from going over a ravine is it hit a tree. Wow. So just some more history, that behind-the-scenes stories, that great stories told there. So I'll hand the microphone back, and we'll get Tim on with this presentation.
Thank you so much, George. Now, I've introduced Tim Bennett, the promoter at Holland International Speedway. He has a BS from, I think it's Niagara University, am I right? Yes. Okay. In hotel and restaurant management, and having spent 36 years at the Speedway, starting out his career picking up garbage at the age of 7, and worked his way all the way up through different positions, and name it, he did it. After college, he started parking cars, then moved to the Radisson Hotel as houseman, then banquet manager in less than 4 months. Then he was at the hotel for 7 years. In 1989, he became a promoter of the track, working full-time summers and part-time winters. The general manager left in 1993, and he took over and worked both positions for a short time, and then in 1998 left the Radisson Hotel for full-time at the Speedway. I like to spend time also with my family, also golfing, traveling, snowmobiling. And he and Larry are the co-authors, which I neglected to say when I introduced Larry, of the Holland International Speedway booklet by the same people that did ours. I got to look and see to make sure before I say it. Arcade Productions. They have done other speedways too. But anyways, Tim, my pleasure to introduce you.
Thank you. Mine won't be as long as Larry's. My presentation is going to try to keep you up to date of what we've done after the history and some of the history. It's been evolving since I was 8 years old at picking up garbage.
To sustain a facility of our size, our nature, takes a lot of different marketing efforts. And I'm going to show you a little bit as we run through. It's not, racing is always going to be our focal point. But there's a lot of different things that we need to do as a facility to stay open. I'm going to show you some of those things. Marketing is one of my key points in here that we are trying to do. There's a lot of different events that we bring throughout the course of the summer and the winter months to our facility, and I just want to kind of give you up to speed on that. I want to stress that racing will always be our focal point. You know, my dad and the 3 others or the 2 others have built it. I will never forget that. And it's not like the old days anymore, and it never will be, but we need to press on and to stay open. And that's what we do year after year for 55 years. My dad and the other gentlemen have built a great speedway, and I'm trying to continue that for the next 55 years. There's a lot of history, and it's amazing when Larry and I put that book together, and mostly Larry, put that book together to, you know, kind of research of what we, and what I didn't even know. I'm only 43, so I was born in 1970, just when, you know, when he started it in 1960, it wasn't even a thought for him. But to come around in 1970 and to grow up the facility, it's been great. I've always had a passion for it. I started doing what I have, picking up garbage. I worked every facet of it, from the flipping burgers to the selling tickets to everything. And it really kind of developed into where I am today with the facility. I love it, and it's my backbone. You'll see my son here today. I brought him along. Hopefully he's the next generation after I am. But I'll get into it. But I want to just say thank you very much for having us today. We can't say thanks enough. Marketing is number 1 at our Speedway. Without marketing partners, we wouldn't exist. That's our racing complex. You'll see our different logo on there, and we'll get into that a little bit more. I created a paintball complex on our land. We own about 167 acres, but we wanted to do something different to bring other people in through our facility, a lot of team building. So currently, myself and my dad. It's the only 2 that run that Speedway. I do pretty much day-to-day operations. He's not too much involved in the day-to-day. I do have a right-hand man, and that is my wife. She keeps me in tow, and she keeps me going. So it is a very unique task to keep this place going day after day and week after year and year after year. And we're trying, and we're succeeding in doing it. Those are some of the marketing partners. Those are some of the marketing partners that I do have currently. Without, again, I mentioned, without those marketing partners, we really can't exist. Demographics. It's funny to see our local demographics at our facility. This is done at a local level, and you'll each have a packet of information. As you flip through that, you'll see some national demographics of the NASCAR, and it's very similar to our demographics on a local level. So it's a very unique way in how it sees it. Let's do this. There we go. Marketing area. Our market area always stretches further and further every year. With different competitors, especially nowadays with the NASCAR All-American State Championship is up to, I believe, 6 tracks. 6 tracks, which is going to be $12,000 just for New York State. So as we develop and join into the NASCAR ranks, it's kind of a different thing to get those people coming from all over, actually New York State. So, market area. We draw all the way. It all depends on what venue we got coming in. George mentioned the ROC Modified Tour coming in. We draw all the way from the PA line all the way up to the Canada. So demographics, without websites these days, you wouldn't exist. That's the first thing that how we currently get our information out to different people. Our website, I don't know if a lot of people know about websites, but you'll see one unique thing over down to the upper right. It says average length of stay. NASCAR fans and you guys out there are fanatics about the sponsors and what we do. It's over 10 minutes at length. When you come to my facility or come to my website, you're actually interested in reading and different things. So it's kind of a nice little statistic that we have on there. Marketing video. I've done a lot of different marketing videos just to show you real quick.
Looking for a unique way of entertaining clients or customers? Then shift into high gear and head over to Holland International Motorsports Complex. We're more than just racing. Holland is a great hospitality center for your company or family's party. There's amusement rides for the kids, guided tours, an outdoor kayak pool overlooking the track, and more. Plus, there's plenty.
Oh, I messed that up, huh?
Hey, Larry, help him out, would you?
Yeah, so that's kind of a marketing area. Should cut that short. Hospitality areas, Larry mentioned mentioned a couple times. We've developed our hospitality areas, working with the Bliss Boys, and coming up, they had a major sponsor with kayak pools. Kayak pools, we built a pool right into a bleacher. You can actually sit in the pool and watch a race. What a unique thing. We've rented that out many times. So as we develop over the many years, just thinking of unique different ways of how we can create our facility a little bit better than the one down the road. VSP's corporate Sky Tower Suites, it's kind of similar to what you saw in the older days, but obviously they've been revamped. Up on top, you'll see our video production system that we have built over the many years. We have closed-circuit television in all of our facility. We're quite proud about that. So another area where you can entertain corporate and key clients. Quick Fill Turn 4 Terrace is one of our newest additions. We used to have in the old one, have an old, what do you want to call it, party tent. And what has happened to that party tent over the years, it blew away one night with the high winds up there. So we did build a permanent structure, got it sponsored by Quick Fill. What a great sponsorship with that. But again, what a unique way to come out and bring your key customers and clients and entertain them in the NASCAR way. And that's really what we're all about now, is getting those, the old days, you say, well, I'm going to make one race fan at a time. And they did. And we're changing that way a little bit and trying to get them hundreds at a time. Because if you come with company picnics and come with group outings for the first time, you're going to come back. We pride ourselves on our facility as a family-owned, family track. As much as I would like to see some, girl in a bikini going down there to serve the checkered flag, you'll see a little kid. It's all about families. We have non-alcoholic sections. George, I think you were junior starter one year, right? When you started out. So we're all about families, and it's really, through Larry's and through discussions with George, you'll see that progression. It's all about the families and growing, and we're the next division or next generation coming up. So the Quick Fill Turn 4 Terrace, again, some different pictures of the people in the hot tubs sitting there. But what a unique way to do it. Signage and display, I put signage everywhere. That's the name of the game here. To try to come up with unique things. People ask me what I sell. I'll sell asphalt from underneath you. Whatever we can do, whatever kind of unique ways that we can create opportunities for sponsors to come in and to support what we have at Holland, that's what we're trying to do. I came up with my newest sponsorship I just secured is a dental place. What's a dental place going to do at a Speedway? Well, my thing was I'm going to put all new bathroom pictures or mirrors in there. How many people look in the mirror before they go out of the bathroom? Everybody. And putting their sponsorships on there. So kind of thinking outside the box in everything we do, from the racing to sponsorships. Billboard advertisement, back straightaway billboards. Again, we'll name anything that we want, from the light poles to the start-finish line to everything. Facilities, up and upper left, are kind of scrunched a little bit, but we've put amusement rides in. My dad's name is Ron, so I call it Ronnie World. He put them in 1988, and what a great diversity for the people to come to our Speedway, for the kids and something to do with the hospitality. It's run its course a little bit. I'm actually in the middle of selling them, and we're going to put some kind of either paintball complex or shooting gallery or something like that for the kids to do, even a playground that we're looking at. So to go down, pit concessions, we strive ourselves on the food and beverage. You touched a little bit about my background. My background is in hotel and restaurant administration. We're trying to bring that to our Speedway, and you'll see that in our hospitality that we have. But the pit concession, we strive ourselves on that. It's great food, and it's for a decent price, if I want to say. But, that's for the pit concessions. We've got concessions all over. The Sunoco Service Center is a very good sponsor of ours. We sell our fuel. We sell our tires there. And, we're up to almost 9,500 seats. It's almost too many seats on a weekly basis and not enough on our special occasions. And that's 9,500s at 18 inches of butt. Nobody sits at 18 inches of butt anymore. At least I don't. So, that's how you judge grandstands, but there's a lot of seats. You know, as you go to my facility, Perception's Reality, you look down this thing, we have probably 3,000 people. It looks empty because you have so many seats. So the Perception's Reality, my most expensive seat's an empty seat, and we've combated that over many years, over the last at least 5 years, with some great marketing programs to initiate some more butts in the stands. Concession stands, we run everything ourselves. I don't sublet anything out. We have anywhere from pizza to hot dogs to everything in the world. I sublet one out, and that's the pizza stand.
Best pizza in the world.
And that's my mother's. I can't take that over. So, you know, but you'll see our Midway, we try to create an atmosphere. We're not so much in the racing business, we're in the entertainment business. And to create that atmosphere on my Midway, it's all asphalt. You know, last time we paved in 1988. One thing we did is we paved our grandstands. One of the biggest things is that we've never realized it. It's fully handicap accessible now. There used to be stones and everything, and very difficult for those, you know, challenged. And now it's very simple to go everywhere in our facility. So you'll see some different pictures there. Here's an old racing commercial, and this is a funny racing commercial because it was done in 2006. 2006, I was just getting my foot in the advertising, and I didn't have time to go back and redo it. And you'll see some footage in there, and it's promoting one of my bigger races, the Budweiser 100, but an average racer is going to see what the difference is.
Happy Labor Day! This Labor Day weekend, pass on the pool party. Put away the slip and slide. Forget the backyard barbecue. Just pack up the family and take them out to a picnic. A picnic of power. Take them to Holland International Speedway. Saturday, September 2nd. It's the Budweiser Late Model 100 with over 13,000 others up for grabs. Plus the NASCAR Dodge Weekly Series. This Saturday, make it Holland International Speedway. The playground for the kid in all of us. The playground of power.
Yeah, so everybody know that's the difference in there? So that was kind of a different thing. To go back, racing divisions, we currently run 6, sometimes 7 an individual night. Naming opportunities, again, we put names on everything, and that's one of the most lucrative things, to put your name on a division, because it's mentioned every time. But we have anywhere from late models to Hornets. Hornets are the 4 cylinders. You know, there's a lot of different perspective on these 4 cylinders that we started. Yeah, they're real not race cars, they're not this and they're not that. But one thing the 4-cylinder cars are doing are getting young kids involved back in racing. That's all they can relate to. They can't relate to a modified. If an average kid off the street comes over to a modified, they really can't relate to it. But once they get into that 4-cylinder, our age now is 14. So you're able to drive at 14 years old. You don't even have a driver's license. But they're able to kind of relate to these 4-cylinders, and we've seen a graduation from these 4-cylinders into these top divisions. So you'll see all the different divisions. Sponsorship, race nights, again, what can we create? We've created a lot of different opportunities in this kind of packet that goes through it. In race night sponsorships, we should try to create an event in every single night. It's not saying, well, it's a regular night of racing. That's not what we're about. It's something special. You know, every single night is something special. All right, something that we created about 10, 12 years ago. I don't know if everybody knows, but it's very different than our racing. And I'll show you a little bit of clip. This is...
It's back and better than ever before. Holland Speedway presents Crash-A-Rama! Featuring school bus figure eight racing, a motorhome demo derby, a $5,000
one of the biggest races that we have here.
a wild and wacky boating camper trailer race, a death-defying automotive stunt show, and much more. Crash-A-Rama! September 10th, rain or shine, at Holland Speedway. Gates open at 4 p.m. The destruction starts at 6:30. Come early for free rides in a real race bus. Kids 7 and under, free. Crash-A-Rama! Be there!
So that'll give you a little bit of different perspective. Started that, I think 12 years ago. We do it twice a year, once in June, once in September. Largest attended show of the year. Can't get them in, standing room only. People love to see stuff smashed. You know, so again, racing's our focal point, but we're trying to introduce other people. And what a unique individual that comes to this, and the families that come to this other than racing. It's almost you can see different walks of life, what I call. Different people coming to each individual race. Crash-A-Rama, there you go. Last year, in September, I had 114 4-cylinder cars start a 100-lap race. We had them 4 wide, started on the start-finish line, and they went back to turn 2. So you can imagine when we threw that green flag, there was chaos. We had stud shows. Some of them went well, some of them didn't. Down on the lower right, that didn't go so well. He's supposed to smash into them, and he kind of landed right before it. So demo derby, stunts, a lot of different things that we try. One of the newest things that we developed about a year and a half ago is paintball. And I mentioned it in the beginning, I believe, but here's just another little...
There we were, pinned down in the Sherwood Field of Holland Paintball Adventure Park, outnumbered, outgunned. Then one of us made the ultimate sacrifice. When the dust settled and the paint dried, we had won. It was over. But hey, our party was just beginning. We cleaned up and headed over to the Hospitality Village, where we enjoyed great food, refreshments, and entertainment, all before heading in for the races. Holland NASCAR Motorsports Complex. Book your adventure now.
We've been very successful with that. Started off a year and a half ago with paintball. Started with 20 guns. Built one field. Said, yeah, it's going to be easy. I didn't know how much work it was involved in a whole other thing. So right now, we're building my fourth field, and I'm up over 60 guns. I do a lot of company team building. I do bachelor parties, birthday parties, kids' birthday parties. So we do a lot with that, and that's growing. One of the unique things that I just came up with, and I just got actually back from yesterday, I went out to all the local colleges and high schools to their theater departments. And their theater departments throw this stuff away. You go to a play and you see all the stuff that they build and everything, they throw it away. Yesterday I went up to Niagara University, I grabbed this huge Roman cathedral thing, all sets, and I brought it back. What do you think my next field's going to be? It's going to be a Roman theme. So it's something different that we're striving on, but again, it's bringing different people into our Speedway and seeing what we have to offer. We cross-promote all the time. So when people come in for paintball, guess what? They see racing. We have race cars there. When people come in for racing, I have paintball on the midway. So we're trying to cross-promote in every step of the way that we do it to introduce along the way, because some people don't know what racing is, and what we're trying to do is educate them on a local level. It's funny how you see things and people are educated right now. An average race fan is educated from the top down. They're educated from the NASCAR Sprint Cup level. They don't know what's short track. You take 20 years ago, everybody was graduated up. They knew what short tracks is, and then went up. Everybody is going different. So we're trying to rechange that. Team building, again, corporate race cars. You'll see a little picture of those race cars. I built about 12 to 14 four-cylinder race cars. And I stick people into them all the time. My longest event going is called Faster Pastor. Faster Pastor, invite all the local clergymen. Doesn't matter what denomination you are. I have a ticket revenue share program with them. And one Saturday night, I stick them into race cars. I've done Faster Firefighter, I've done Teacher Feature, I've done Battle of the Badges. Again, getting people to the racetrack other than, just racing. Team paintball, that's the picture of a Dare Corporation. It's one of the highly renowned organizations in Buffalo. They brought all their engineers. And now to see people work together, and team building is key in paintball, because if you don't work together, you're going to get lit up on that course. Field trips, another thing that we added up, again, getting young kids back involved in the sport and engaged. I've went out and I've researched and got, my first year was 2 years ago, I had 3 of them, YMCA's, Boys and Girls Club. Last year I had 15 of them. But what we're doing on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or whatever day of the week, is bringing hundreds of kids out in busloads at a time, introducing them to our facility, introducing them to racing, and I charge them, $8 for a hot dog of water or riding a race car. And it's a unique thing. Now they're developing. I have a 1 million gallon pond that you can fish in, and they're renting out the pool. So they're getting people to my facility other than just race day. There is a huge fishing pond. We've developed a little dock. Who is that? Is that you? So great fishing. We go up there all the time, me and my son, and but just a different, unique way. It's something else to do when you do come. We're trying to make our facility into almost a destination. Game room, Oogie Game Room. I bought 45 vintage video games. When I call vintage, they're vintage. From the Pac-Man to the old ones. But again, get engaged. And we just recently did this the last couple of years. One of my ideas is during our break is to have a driver come over and race a kid on the Xbox or whatever it may be. To get them engaged, to get them involved in the races. we have local heroes. We try to make these heroes, and that's how we exist year to year, is making these guys like George come and be local heroes to the young kids coming up. And we try to make heroes out of them. But something for the kids to do. Oogie Game Room, and just another picture. New for 2014. I don't know if anybody keeps track of it. These mud runs, and these runs are huge. One of the things we're developing in my 167 acres is a 5K run. All right? And they're going to go up and down ravines. They're going to use the Speedway. They're going to do this. But again, it's funny. This Run or Die is a national event. I leased the facility out to them. We launched it 2.5 weeks ago. In the day, over 1,000 people have already registered and paid their money to race. So it's kind of a unique fad that we're doing. But one thing I want to be able to do is, at the end of October, I'm going to have another run, but I'm going to have a haunted paintball shoot where you can go around and kill live zombies with the kids in the paintball. So something new. But again, getting people, different people to our facility and that. That's briefly. I hope I didn't go too fast. And if there's any questions, please let us know. I can't say thanks enough for allowing us to be here and presenting it. This book is key to our history. You know, it's interesting to see how far this book has gone from the sales out in California to Arizona. One guy shot it actually, and I think I told you, Larry, one guy shot it. It's in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. You know, to see that book in there, and to create the history that this place has created, I will continue that again for hopefully another many, many years. So we're very proud of our facility. It's family owned. We care about our facility. Yeah, it's a little old. It's 55 years old, but it's got character. And that's what we're all about. We're all about family. So I appreciate it very much. Thanks for having us today. Any questions? Any questions for any of us? Shoot.
Yeah, you said that kids could come there when they're, what, 13 years old?
14 years old, you can actually start driving.
Do you run a driver's school or an orientation or anything?
Nope. Yeah, let them in, come on in, and, you know, every division that we look at from a standpoint of competition, if you're not ready, you're starting in the back. You know, in years past, I've done racing schools. You know, 10 years ago, I started racing school with Tim Bender. And man, you know, I don't know if you know Tim Bender. He started the Cup Light Series, which is a smaller 3/4 cup car. It's powered by a 700 Yamaha snowmobile engine. But we started school then, you know, and that ran its course, and the economy got bad or whatever. But, you know, to do something like that, to engage it, yeah, probably we will. And that's the whole thing regarding these 4 cylinders, is getting these youth back involved in it. I just hooked up with Alfred State University. Got a great marketing, or excuse me, a motorsports program. All right, and my idea with them, and it's going to create it, is I'm going to send these 4-cylinder cars down out of junkyards. They're going to build race cars as part of their studies for the year, and then I'm going to get them engaged to come back up. You know, so hopefully we develop that, but you can really tell when a 14-year-old's out there, it's quite different. Any other questions?
Yeah, what's the length of your season? When do you open the racing?
It's funny, that's developed over many years. I remember racing and trying to race in the end, you know, second week of April. You get hit over the head so many times, it stops that. Our facility's not winterized, you know, so we have to open up and everything. Our current season starts at Memorial Day and ends at Labor Day. Those two, you know, those weeks, that's your summer. Anyway, so yeah, we run everything in that short season. Paintball's extending it. You know, I've done paintball all the way up to the end of November. You know, last year I did paintball in the middle of winter. You know, and that's funny to see.
Yeah, wow.
That's why. But yeah, our current season's all crammed into there. We mostly run, excuse me, mostly run on weekends. Newest thing that I didn't mention is I'm bringing in drifting this year. I have drifting cars. I don't know if it's big out west, coming out east. I got 6 dates with those. Those are going to be some on Wednesdays. It's funny because cost and everything kind of restricted what you do. And we're on an off-peak demand rate for my electric. And that's one of the biggest costs in running a facility is your electric. And they have me pretty nailed down. You can't turn on your lights unless you ratchet into that high peak demand rate, 10 p.m. on Friday to 7 a.m. on Monday. So when I tried, and we tried this, I don't know, 10 years ago, Wacky Wednesdays. I tried something in July. They ratcheted me almost a year in that high peak. Now, it doesn't matter when you run, so once you jam it on in high peak, you're done for the rest of the season. Over years, now it's governed from month to month. And that's when I went back and tried Wacky Wednesdays. I had a cheap $5 night to come on in and do it. And we gained momentum all the way through the course of July. But by the time I'm looking at my numbers, it doesn't work.
Well, is it basically Saturday and Sunday you race?
It's just Saturdays actually now. Yep, just Saturdays. In that packet of information, in the back of it, you'll see our email blast. We do a large email blast, but that has all my dates right in it. But it's mostly Saturdays. Yeah. Sundays, different time around Western New York. Bills, Sundays, church, a lot of different things that are happening in different Sundays. So Saturday nights, we've always been on for 55 years.
How about your ROC race? They're usually Sundays.
ROC race, no. Mine's always been on a Saturday. Really? Always been on a Saturday. Last time, Andy Harpel and myself really, I like Andy. Get along with him great. Last couple of years, we've done it on Saturday, so it's really worked well. So, any other questions for any of us?
I thought most of the small tracks had their own generators.
I'm sorry.
I thought most of the small tracks had their own generators.
We looked into generators, to come across that and have that capital amount of money to put in there. Yeah, we probably could, but we never did. Never did. And it's funny because our facility has 2 main powers, now 3. I got 3 main powers that I draw from, And it's funny because you think of the grandstands drawing more power than the pits. The pits draw more power. We have individuals in our pit facility. We have over 110 individual pads with lights on it, with electric hookups for the competitors. And that, draws a huge amount. But you go in our pits, it's nice for those competitors to be there. It's all about, and Larry touched this it's all about working with your competitors. Without the competitors, I wouldn't have a racetrack. Without the racetrack, the competitors wouldn't have a good place to race. So to work integral and back and forth with these competitors is key to our success. And if we don't show them that we're there to work together, we're not going to be in business. So that's a key to our success that we've been doing over many years. You have ABC sponsor that wants to do it, get in your car a little bit. Well, we can come to the table and help you enhance that program. And we do that with many different individuals. Any other thing? Appreciate it. Well, come on.
I was talking to a fellow this morning. I was trying to talk into coming here. And he says, "Oh yeah, I was up there years ago and so forth." He says, "I think they used to have a bunch of steel plates along the front straightaway from the grandstands." I said, "I'd never heard of that."
Yeah, no steel. No, he's actually probably thinking of our concrete, because our concrete wall, we put a concrete in the front into the land itself, so the concrete's there, and then it has a on top. So yeah, it might look like all painted metal, but yeah.
Apparently, boilerplate.
Boilerplates. I don't know. That's it. Any other questions? Thank you so much for having us today. I appreciate your attention to everything that we've done. And Larry wants to say one more thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just real quick, we kept you here long enough. Just do me a favor. I have come to believe in the mission of the International Motor Racing Research Center here at Watkins Glen. Many of you have been here several times before, so in that case, it's kind of preaching to the choir. But for those of you that haven't been here before, take some brochures. Do me the favor, when you go home today, tell a lot of your fellow people in the racing fraternity about the International Motor Racing Research Center. It's the only facility of its kind in the world. It does great work here. So please do me the favor of going home and talking to everyone you know about this facility. Encourage them to go onto the website and encourage them to come down and pay this great facility a visit. Thank you.
Can we get a group photo of you guys before you?
I want to thank all of you for coming today. It was great talk from Larry, Tim, and George. And I want to invite you over next door for refreshments. And also, Larry and Tim will be signing the Holland International Speedway books. If you want to purchase one, they'd be glad to sign for it. And I'll sign you for it. I'll get it out. And also, our next talk next month is George Webster from Canada talking on land speed record attempts on sand in Florida before World War I. Thank you all for coming.